You know what that music means. Well, it's not Friday, actually. It's Thursday, but we thought we'd do it anyway. We'd have a Free Speech Thursdays. I called it the Working Group earlier. That's just a program name that Martin Bradbury and Damien Grant stole off me. But it is that time of the week when we kind of wrap up the week with a couple of people who don't mind speaking their minds. And I am very pleased to have back with us after some renovation, I understand, which I'm going to get a look at on Wednesday, from the Backbencher pub opposite Parliament on Molesworth Street, Alistair Boyce, otherwise known as Boyce. How are you, Boyce?
G'day, Sean. Good to be with you.
All right. And non-woke, feminist, writer, journalist, Yvonne van Dongen joins us. How are you, Yvonne?
I'm good, Sean. Hello, Boyce. Glad to be here.
Hello, Yvonne.
All right.
Hello.
Let's crack straight into it. First up, by the way, this is our Bastille Day special for the working group. It's not the Matariki special, it's the Bastille Day special. The Netherlands.
Okay.
Miss Netherlands is a bloke. What do we make of this? Oh, Yvonne, I'll let women go first. If you identify as a woman, I'm not sure.
Because I've got Dutch heritage, and I should go first. But I know you think it's completely bonkers, but New Zealand got here first. Did you realise that?
No.
We had a Miss New Zealand that was trans in 2020. It was a Filipino New Zealander. His name was Andrew Kyle, and he's now called Ariel. And it was he went into this Miss Intercontinental competition, and he won.
Yeah.
He won. So we were there first.
So the Dutch are just copiers. They're copycats.
Yeah, they are. I mean, really, at the time, I remember a whole lot of feminists thinking about this issue, and we thought, well, it's a thing for men anyway. They can have it. They can put all the trans women they want into a Miss New Zealand or into a
And
beauty
that's why
contest.
it's funny to see feminists and lesbians getting upset about what is an essentially misogynistic act of a festival of objectification anyway, isn't it?
Exactly. That's how we all felt about it. They can have it. Knock yourself out. All the trans women in the world can enter. But yeah, we were first because, we are first in these issues quite often.
And the stupidity. Boyce, does it make you worry about, Dutch women?
I find beauty contests pretty lame, very objective and probably misogynist. I remember my daughter, when she was a baby, she's less than one, won a baby contest, and I looked at her and said that's the last time she ever goes in one of those, because I just couldn't stand the whole idea of it. And if it's a beauty contest, does it matter if it's a male or a female? Like, some men are beautiful, some women are beautiful.
Who cares as long as they want world peace and a kind to animals, Yvonne?
That's exactly right. It's very deep.
Okay, so we can joke about that. I feel less inclined, guys, to joke. I did a fascinating chat with Brendan O'Neill from Spiked Online about this on here this week. This bloke, or this increasing fetish of blokes who dress up as women wanting to breastfeed babies. Is there any world, Boyce, in which that is normal or acceptable?
No, it's not normal. The bloke trying to breastfeed baby, it needs psychological help, not attention and publicity. No, it's seriously wrong. I can't go along with it whatsoever. I think it's a travesty of creation.
Oh, that is strong. Yvonne?
Well, it's kind of the logical outcome of this giant game of pretend, isn't it, really? I mean, if we're going to pretend men can be women, then these men should be able to breastfeed. I mean, it just goes to show how demented this gender ideology is. And if you think that it's not, then I think it must have rotted your brain. It's like that, that saying, have you heard that saying, the higher the monkey climbs, the more you can see its ass? Horrible saying, but it does show how crazy this whole thing is.
It's a bloody good saying, Yvonne. I've never heard it before, but it's good.
Well, it's right at the top of the tree, that monkey, really. It's right at the top of the tree.
Well, I read online the other day, there's a trans bloke, or trans woman they call themselves, who wants to have a uterus implanted so he can get pregnant and have an abortion.
And have an abortion?
Yeah, the whole thing is to get pregnant and have an abortion and exercise his agency.
Really? Oh, my God. See, it is.
See, sometimes I look at this stuff and I think, no, they're joking. This is a parody. But, I mean, Boyce, it is hard to tell what's real and what's not, isn't it?
Well, I think we just have to call it out and be reasonably firm about it. I mean, it's just got a bit ridiculous when it comes to this. I mean, if it's a male and he can't lactate, what the hell is he doing? If he's genuine about raising a child and having a baby, then there's a thing called a baby bottle, and you feed it milk and you care for the baby as a human being, not as a person pretending to lactate milk to raise a baby.
Yeah. But we live in a world where Television New Zealand has a youth branch called RE. And in fact, across a whole lot of government departments, the Midwives Association, there are now people who menstruate, and there are people who have cervixes. They're not women anymore.
Yeah.
And I'd say if we officially indulge that sort of language and that sort of craziness, we are, by not saying anything about it, buying into it, aren't we, Yvonne?
Oh, completely. This whole ideology sort of really harms women. It really erases women. It's just so offensive on every level, and I'm shocked how many women support it. And what concerns me is I think the public is aware of it, getting more and more aware, but I think there's kind of a crust in the elite that right across corporates, across the government, across media, who support this ideology, and they're just rolling it out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk corporates, because that was the other big story, though you wouldn't have read much about it in legacy or mainstream media. Spark backing this bloke, Chanel Lal, who's doing publicity for his book about being a victim, his book on victimhood. But Chanel Lal calling for this new social media thing called, Threads or something, to have no TERFs. And TERF is now just a word for anyone who disagrees with Chanel Lal, I think, or disagrees with this trans madness we've just been discussing. But Spark basically comes out and says, we agree that social media should be operating with cancel culture and making some people non-people, which I just thought was an incredibly stupid thing to do, Boyce.
Yeah, I don't. Spark. I think this is a way too far extension of anyone's idea of a social licence of business. I think business and economy needs to stick to what it does. If they want to position themselves as that, then the government needs to even up the playing field and not allow monopolistic ventures to get so far entrapped by woke diversity culture.
Well, it had a backlash, and that was a whole bunch of people, and we don't know how many on Twitter, which is only 9% of the population, only part of Twitter. But there was this big campaign to boycott or cancel your Spark account, which seemed to me, Yvonne, to be rather useless, because then, of course, we had the other big telco provider, One New Zealand, that used to be Vodafone. It came out and said, we don't want the business of the people who are boycotting Spark because we're even woke than Spark. They almost got into a virtue signalling contest, the two telcos.
I know. It's pointless. I think the boycott is generally pointless. I mean, boycotts, if they work, that maybe that's useful, and maybe like with the Dylan Mulvaney thing and Bud Light, that worked because people could fixate on Dylan Mulvaney. But this is too amorphous. And also, I tend to think anything involving Chanel Lal should be ignored, because otherwise you're just feeding that ravenous ego. He wants to be a victim. He wants women and everybody else to rise up against him. That's his shtick. He wants that.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing you can do with Chanel is just ignore him.
It's hard, though. The government spends so much money promoting him, Yvonne, and Kiwi Bank.
I know, and
people.
so has Spark. Have you seen Spark?
Yeah, Spark and 2 Degrees and Vodafone. I don't know what it is. He must have photos, Alistair.
He's got evidence on them to undermine their business. No, they've just got to separate it off. Like, I just find it ridiculous that a monopolistic situation are all on the social culture laws and conducting it on behalf of the state.
Yeah, it's funny. Look, we've been talking to 10, 12 minutes, and all these issues come back to this identity thing, to this wokeness thing. It is dominating our social discourse, isn't it?
Yep.
Or are we living in a bubble, Alistair? Are we particularly obsessed by this? Is Yvonne some mad turf?
It's a massive distraction. We've got serious problems in this country, and certainly in the city that you and I live in. We've got a massive contraction of the economy going on. We've got a government overspend of billions of dollars out with fiscal holes, both at local and central government. And we're obsessing with identity issues and cancel culture, and we're all on the wrong page.
Yeah. Yep, I hear you. Guys, we're going to have a break. We'll get back into it. You good to go, Ben? Yeah, he's not. He is now. Away you go. .co.nz. Ron McLean is the guy who runs Kiwi Fertiliser, and it's kind of almost like a bespoke biological fertiliser company. And we're joined now by Ron McLean from kiwifertiliser.co.nz. Ron, welcome to the platform. Thank you, and lovely to have you with us.
Yeah, good morning, Sean.
You are a very interesting little outfit. I think of fertiliser, and I think of something coming out of a plane that you buy in bulk and goes on the back of a truck. Kiwi Fertiliser is quite a lot different than that.
Yes, that's right. And that's what fertiliser is. But in order to get the right recipe to be going onto those soils, you first of all have to work with some reputable laboratory, which we do. So we follow exclusively the Albrecht Kinsey soil science. The plugs of soil that we pull from properties, from dairy farms, hill country farms, horticulture, etc., all go across to the Perry lab in Missouri to be analysed. And then from that, they send an email back to say what nutrients are there in abundance and what nutrients are missing. And so we make up custom blends of fertiliser to fulfil the discrepancies in the soil.
Does that have advantages in terms of reducing things like nitrates in fertiliser? Does it mean you can be, and those who buy from you can actually be more environmentally aware and responsible?
Oh, absolutely. So we have a little catchphrase we call total replacement therapy. What that means is that we can totally replace a chemical type fertiliser operation with a biological. And in doing so, we've reduced nitrogen going onto dairy farms, for instance, from 190 units of N down to less than 40 units of N, and produced far more dry matter production with clovers going from about 30% in the sward right up to 70 and 80% in the sward. So a lot more clover production, therefore a lot more dry matter production, and a lot less pollution.
Hey, Ron, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Sean.
That's Ron McLean from kiwifertiliser.co.nz. They are a biological, tailor-made fertiliser company.
This idea of purity, and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy.
What you have to say counts on the platform.
All right, you are on the platform, or otherwise known as Te Tua Papa. That's just a little Matariki nod there. Let's talk about Matariki, shall we? Alistair, I'm sure you're going to have Matariki specials at the backbencher tomorrow. And Yvonne, I take it you'll be travelling home to feast with family, Yvonne?
Are you addressing me or Alistair?
Well, either of you, but it's a special and significant event in our cultural calendar, isn't it, Alistair?
I'm just frustrated by it. You know, we're trying to get a business reopened and revamped, and it's a public holiday we just don't need. It's smashed small business around. The small business takes the brunt of it, has to pay for it. It's not the government paying for it. It's all these small businesses who lose another day's trading. In a place like Wellington, it means that the government sector virtually most of them take the week off before and after.
Most of them do anyway.
Holiday. Most
of them are working from home now anyway, Alistair.
Well, that's entrenched, and it's fundamentally changed the whole nature of business in Wellington, and it's still not being fully acknowledged. And having another public holiday is just another slap in the face for the economy.
Yeah, but Yvonne, isn't it a time, Yvonne, that New Zealanders come together, they stare at the stars, they feast? Even though we've only been doing this for 2 years.
Look, I am a fan. I can see Alistair's point, and maybe we should have swapped it for King's birthday.
Yeah.
But I'm a fan because we're a young country. We're a culture in creation, you know. We're just building nationhood. And at least I think this will grow, and people will, not us perhaps, but the younger kids, they'll grow up learning all about it.
What about it, Yvonne? What is there to learn?
Well, it's about the stars rising, you know.
Well, that's called astronomy. You can study that already at universities if we have any left in 10 years.
Yes, but you do it with a Maori. Look,
Why do you do it with a Maori thing?
What, a Maori lens because they're our Indigenous culture? Why not? Why
Well,
not?
Maori didn't have lenses, by the way. Just want to say that.
It's a figure of speech, but it's got a spiritual aspect to it. And we'll learn about
What
the
spiritual
stars
aspect?
Oh, I don't know. It's something to do with
No, it's all
crops
made
and
up, Yvonne.
Well, even if it's made up, everything's made up. Religion's made up. You know, they're all concepts that choose to embrace or not embrace.
Yeah.
And I think young people, I think there's a real hunger for that nationhood, which is why you see so many young people turn up.
Tell them to go to an
Day
Anzac Day parade, Yvonne.
Yes, well, that's right, but they do. But so that shows you that there is a real hunger for this sort of thing. There is, and I'm sure it will grow, even if it is a concocted confection, whatever you like. I'm sure it will grow, and the younger generation it will come to mean something. I mean, how much do any of these?
I'm going right off you, Yvonne, because you're being all woke. You're being all woke, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I just think it's actually going to be a good thing. The other thing I'd like to see is we should get rid of some of the things that don't, or public holidays that don't mean anything, like King's birthday, and I'd like to see a day celebrating suffrage, which is something that we should celebrate.
Like Chicks Day.
Because we were the first country in the world. Why not?
I actually don't disagree with you, because that's a real thing that happened and we can be proud of.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're all going to journey home for the weekend and celebrate with friends and family. I mean, that's all just made up.
Well, things are made up, isn't it?
Anzac Day isn't made up. We did go to Gallipoli. Thousands of New Zealanders did die, right, and have died in wars. That's not made up.
No, but religion's made up. Did Jesus really rise? You know.
Oh, let's not go there.
But I'm just saying. You know, why not?
Alistair, come on, you're being very quiet.
Oh, I'm just thinking you're letting Yvonne dig herself a hole. I don't mind Matariki per se. My beef is having endless public holidays and time off and going down to a 3-day week and a 2-day week and doubling your sick pay and the whole economy slowly shutting down. Hence, there's a $2 million fiscal hole. You realise how many businesses that means are not making any money because they're not paying tax. In fact, they're getting tax refunds.
Yeah.
So we've got a hell of a time coming, and again, all we can think about is having a day off. We've got plenty of days off. We've got 4 or 5 weeks holiday a year.
Yep.
It's unbelievable when you get an economy that is in such a malaise and with people with such low levels of potential productivity that is just unrealised. And it's only 5 years ago we had a rock star economy.
Yeah. That's right. Look, let's talk about one thing I am going to do in Matariki is just have a break from work. There's been so much happening politically and in the news. And finally a poll out, I guess, in certain echo chambers that confirms everyone's prejudice that everyone hates the government and they're going to get rolled. I think I had Richard Prebble today saying it's going to be a massacre. New Zealand First supporter Chris Trotter saying, the tide's going out on Labour essentially. And then we have another poll almost immediately that says, no, it's still neck and neck. Do you think the mood is changing, Yvonne? Do you think people are starting to say we've had enough, we want change?
I think that mood has changed quite a long time ago, actually, and the polls just haven't reflected it. I think the big problem is, though, that the two major parties are not exciting people. It's not like a move to something.
Well, they're deliberately trying not to excite people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I think it will probably be the election of the smaller parties, and that's why I've always believed ACT will do exceptionally well. It will do exceptionally well because it appears to stand for something. Yeah. Whereas Christopher Luxon, even his comments on that carpet issue that you asked him about. Yeah. That was so disappointing. So disappointing.
And he quite rightly got pilloried for that. That's just a no-brainer for any New Zealander, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, and why not speak out and be definite about something? He's too kind of wishy-washy, both. And, so none of the parties, it's not going to be a positive vote. I think it will be a vote, it'll be the smaller parties.
You're going to vote for
that will do well.
Yeah, okay, for the people you dislike the least.
I think it is that.
Yeah, Boyce, do you think the worm has turned?
I think the worm has turned. I don't think it's a full-on conclusion. Chris and Chris appear to be coalescing in the middle. I think the voting public really wants some clear differentiation from the two major parties, and they're drifting towards the minor parties. I mean, Winston Peters has got, I think he's going to get a mandate over 5%. Him and Shane Jones can probably really sort out some of these issues with law and order and co-governance. Unrelenting policy from David Seymour and the ACT Party all the way through, and sensible and very stable intra-party politics have put them in an amazing position to not dominate, but certainly be the major part of a centre-right government. I can't see how Labor can come back into this with Te Pāti Māori and the Greens.
Yeah. Have you seen, I just wonder, has Grant Robertson popped over with any other members of the caucus having your pub's been closed, so they can't
we've
conspire?
been shut for 5 weeks, Sean, doing this refit. So we see a few in our cafe celebrate, but I haven't really caught up with any politics.
Yeah, one gets the feeling they've fallen out, that there's a schism there, Yvonne. Grant Robertson wanted to tax the rich and start a class war, and Hipkins said, oh, no, let's try and be all things to all people.
Maybe that's what happens when you become leader of the Labour Party. Maybe that seems to be the curse, doesn't it? But I think, that is an odd thing, because it might have brought people back to Labour. It might have. I'm not sure that it would have entirely. But there are lots of other business people who are saying we do need to reform our tax system. I think even Sharon Zollner was saying we need to have some form of capital gains or wealth tax. We are an outlier and not having that. So it is, you've got this mandate. Why wouldn't you do it? Why didn't they do it before?
Yeah, and it seems such a waste. If you're really the working class heroes and the people's choice, you would have done it, and you would have said, we're going down anyway, bugger it. Let's leave a legacy, Alistair.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people who are wealthy are okay with the wealth tax.
Yeah.
As long as it's fair and equitable in as many ways as possible. I can certainly see the concern over the rural sector with the farmers. They've just been hammered on all levels. But
I loved that line, and I said this morning, Boyce, because it risked a revolt amongst the rural community. There's already been a revolt amongst the rural community against Labor.
A lot of that
the
was
boat
the
had sailed.
Protest.
That tractor has rolled, buddy.
Yeah, it has. They're on a scale of 1 to 10, they're at 11 of anger over this government and its policies and the implementation of it. So they're never coming back to Labor. They will never trust Labor again.
Yeah.
All right. Look, guys, the last issue, and I actually think, to be honest, in some ways quite important, but we had an interesting interview on this with the Principals Association. In Australia, everywhere but the ACT, from the start of next year, you will not be able to have a cell phone or a digital device in a public school. They've just said, too disruptive, we're going to blanket ban them. And it didn't get a lot of coverage here, this story, but I actually think all the research I've read from people like Jonathan Haidt and other internationally experts say part of the problem we've got with young people being woke, brainless snowflakes, is this has only really happened since the digital age, since they've all been going to school with phones. Such a great idea. What are your feelings on it? Boyce?
Yeah, look, the cell phones are a total distraction. They are in the workplace as well, even though for most jobs they're totally required. Our education system is in so much trouble anyway. We can hardly get people to the classroom, let alone get them concentrate in the classroom, let alone give them curricula that's actual factual curricula. Getting them to concentrate on that instead of social media is fundamental to learning. So I think they get put away once the class starts. You can get them back between class, an hour off them for each class, I think is the way to go. Don't take them off them totally. That's a bit totalitarian. But when you're in class, you should be learning.
Yeah. Yvonne?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea, and I actually think the young people would thank you in a way without wanting to admit it, the way kids do when they have boundaries set, because it does just create anxiety and turmoil. It's generally not a positive thing. So I think it would be really, and as you were saying about the educational achievement, it would be a benefit to us all. We should make those rules straight away as soon as we can. And did you see on TV that there's a move back towards dumb phones? that they're coming back in and parents are giving them to their children because then they can't get on social media.
So
yeah.
I mean, why did you need phones? Why did you need phones? I feel sorry for this generation. The excitement of having a phone call while you're at school in my day, back at Plymouth in primary, you know, in the late 60s, early 70s, the excitement of Sean Plunket has a phone call, go to the office. Oh, man, that was like red letter day stuff, wasn't it?
What were they ringing you about? Something you must.
Oh, I know that someone had died or something. Who cares? One of your grandparents had died was normally the reason. So what? Boyce, while we've got you here, just explain. I'm going to get a look next week. The new renos. What have you done with the place?
Well, we've lightened it right up, opened it up, and at the same time created alcoves. We've depoliticised it in line with the current environment. So I've pulled out a lot of my satire. That'll have to come out through you now. So we're a product of the current environment.
So is it a safe space now, Boyce?
Yeah, it's safe from even the bite of my satire. So that's where we're at. We're trying not to offend anyone and maximise our patronage while still being the political pub across Parliament.
I'm so disappointed. I'll come and have a look next week.
That's the way business has gone, Sean. So.
Well, the platform, we're an island of sanity.
I've still got my personal voice. I've still got my personal voice, and you still give me a
platform. All right. Yvonne, enjoy your hangi or whatever Maori mysticism you're practicing tomorrow for Matariki. You're clearly into it. And you've swallowed all the government propaganda, and good on you.
No, I haven't swallowed it. I just think it's a nation in creation. That's all I'm saying.
All right. I hear you. I thank you both for your free speech this Thursday.
Okay.
Lovely talking to you both. Yvonne van Dongen and Alistair Boyce or Boyce. That's Free Speech Thursday.